This is Guitarist Denis Taaffe, and I'm in my home studio in Bloomington, Indiana. And really, my home studio is basically my music room. You know, where I have my amps and things. So obviously, I'm a guitarist. And for those who aren't familiar with my music, or my approach to music, I play electric guitar and do guitar loops done on the fly. And basically all that means is that basically I'll play something and I have a little pedal board. It'll start looping part of it. I record part of it and it starts looping it. And then I layer ideas over that. I also emulate bass on guitar and other sounds, based on guitar as well. And all my music is improvised on the spot. In other words, I don't go back and overdub, adding tracks and those kinds of things. It's much more spontaneous than that. Because it's improvised on the spot, it's as if you record a track and while you're hearing it, you have to quickly come up with ideas of what might sound good with that. And it's really great because it's always surprising, what can happen musically as a result of that. The other thing is, in particular, this is my 314th album, and my very first album was in 1999, still one of my favorites for sure, and that was done a standard recording. Okay, I wasn't improvising or even looping at that point, so that was just a standard album. Then albums 2 through 200, okay, 2 through 200 are what I consider rock albums. A lot of drums and samples and a lot of distorted electric guitar. And now, from then I kind of switched styles from 200 to 314 so far. Is a totally different style. And it's mainly focused on kind of film music. And it's truly the music that I prefer the best, influenced by music from John Carpenter, did Halloween and so on. Tangerine Dream, Kraftwerk, all these kinds of, mostly synthesizer type things. So I'm kind of trying to do the same thing, but on guitar. Basically, I threw out the conventional, lead playing and so on. Though it's fun to do, I just had to ask myself if it's very musical. And, basically I was totally freed from any concerns, is it radio ready? Will people like it? Is it popular? That will make you shake your booty. I always mention that because I was told once I tried to get a gig and the promoter heard my music and he says, well, here, at the bar, they want music where they can shake their booty. Fine. In any case, basically just doing the music that I like. Hopefully others will like it. Maybe not, I'm sure there's tons of criticisms. Everyone has an opinion, that kind of thing. Alright, so let's begin with track 1. Okay, and I just have the working titles here. Actually, the album's been released, but I'm not sure what the original names ended up being. I just have track 1 through 7, so we'll refer to them as that. And track 1 is actually split up into 2 tracks. It's actually track 1 and then part 2 is track 5. And the thing to notice here, and I'll go ahead and start playing it here, is notice how clean the recording is. And believe me, for me this is very difficult in a home studio environment to get a really clean, quiet sound, you know. And so I was really thrilled with that it was very silent till you hear those plucked chords. And that's that Yamaha, and it's tuned to an E flat, so you get a real low sound. Notice that they're playing the guitar, and those little swelled notes. And swelling is, for me, is where you play a note, you pick it, then you turn up the volume so that you never hear the pick sound, and it gives you this kind of sound. Almost sounds like a keyboard, kind of. And unfortunately, with one of my Parker guitars, I was unable to do swells because the potentiometer, the volume knob, was dirty. So every time I would turn the knob, it would go, you know. So here I had this brand new Yamaha, and the pot is silent, so I could turn it up and do swells again, which I haven't done in a long time. And I really like the mood that this track creates, you know. It's kind of this eerie, very slow tempo, you know. From what I remember, this is another 88 beats per minute tempo. And now here's this massive bass sound, because it was tuned to E flat. And I almost cut part of it out, and the reason is the way I was counting the beats, you know, the bass comes on 1, right? But there are 2 that I realized I was off by a couple beats compared to what the guitar was playing. At first I listened to it and I thought, well, okay, so it could have been better played. However, because the first measure and the last measure of the sequence, the bass is spot on, it actually works really well. It gives it a more eerie kind of sound to have it in the middle here. Okay, so that's track 1, and we'll revisit that track later in part 2, which is track 5. Okay, so let's move on to track 2. Now, from what I remember, track 2 is definitely one of my favorites, and I believe it's the pattern playing. Let's take a listen to that. Yeah. So those are those eventide delays on the guitar, and I absolutely love that sound, you know. And so this is starting from the very beginning, just one guitar. Eventually I'll loop it and layer it and add a bass emulation and so on. I think this was called Performance or something like that, I think. Yeah. So here comes the bass emulation. And let's fast forward it because it's a long track. It's about 8 minutes. Let's go to the 4-minute, 41-second mark. So here I've got several layers of guitar. guitar sound for sure. Maybe I'll tire of it at some point, but I just like that sound. So you're coming up with different parts of guitar parts that'll complement as it builds and builds and builds. And let's fast forward to 7 minutes 12 seconds. And there, I don't know if you can hear it right here. I use this kind of a octave guitar where you play a note and it plays that note and one octave above. Okay, let's move on to track 3. And track 3, as I recall, it's the one of the first riffs I really wrote on that new Yamaha guitar. I mean, it was tuned to E flat, so it was real low sounding. And what I like about this is that the riff is continually moving. And from what I remember, it goes to an E minor, to a D, to an A. But it's constantly moving. So it's almost like you're playing an arpeggio of each chord, but constantly moving from one to the other. And you'll hear it here. Let's listen to that. Yeah, here it is. I have a delay on it. So it's actually a tricky riff to play because you're kind of playing a chord, kind of playing an arpeggio, right? So your fingers are constantly moving. And that's just a little blues turnaround at the end. And those are some harmonics. And they help to create that kind of mood atmosphere. And because it was a Yamaha guitar, I was able to switch between the neck pickup and the bridge pickup, which is a little brighter sound. Which on the Parker, when I did that, the bridge pickup would be so much louder than the neck pickup that I couldn't really do that. Okay, well, let's fast forward to the, let's see. It's a pretty long track too, it's 8 minutes, so let's see if we can fast forward to about the 4:18 mark. So here I've got quite a few layers going. Harmonics. There's also kind of a vibrato guitar there. And layering pattern playing over that. It's all about creating that mood and atmosphere around that central theme, right? Okay. Reminds me very much of a just in mood and atmosphere. It reminds me of a film years and years ago called The Onion Fields, I think it was. It's really kind of gritty. Crime, murder, mystery type film, as I recall. It's a long time ago. In any case. Alright, here's track 4. And this one is over 10 minutes. About 10 minutes and 30 seconds. Let's take a listen to that one. There's that pattern playing again. And you can hear the bass emulation underneath. Yeah. And this is a preset I created, which is very different than earlier attempts. At this kind of pattern type delayed sound. Yeah, very much like that. Here comes the second guitar part. Guitar fills. Okay, let's go to the 5-minute mark. So here I've added more patterns layered together. Still very clear though. Even though I'm layering a lot of layers of guitars, I try to keep it as clear as possible. There's that little hot sauce Eventide algorithm that makes your guitar sound like a keyboard. So I've used that here a little bit. Try not to overdo it though this time. That to me gives it this kind of film type sound. Very cool for me. Okay, and we can fast forward that to the 9-minute mark. Here we go. Same kind of thing. Now I've added that guitar. Here's some reverse guitar. It's a loop playing in reverse. Playing regular guitar over it. You see how this building almost sounds like a wave, but it comes and goes. It's only one little section is in reverse right here. Yeah. And I've added some more patterns, different notes, patterns. That's that pattern playing. Okay, now track 5, which is 9 minutes and 50 seconds, a super long track as well. And this is an extension on remember the introductory track, which was real slow and kind of very start. There was not much there, but it was really building that tension. So let's hear part 2. It's the same tempo, of course. Now here's what's interesting about this track. I put in the pattern playing, but because the tempo's so slow, this is kind of how it sounds, you know. It definitely doesn't have that groove of, you know, faster tempo tracks where I use that pattern playing. So it's more of a that's because of the tempo. And let's fast forward that to the 5-minute mark. I've got that, that's a Yamaha guitar again, just playing the clean guitar sound through a Fender Deluxe Reverb. Definitely gets you that tube guitar sound. I hear that huge bass emulation. And again, it was tuned in E flat, so you get that real low bass sound. Yeah, and there's a couple layers of guitars there. So here I'm playing different chord voicings on the clean guitar. Okay, and if we move to 8 minutes 39 seconds, again, here's some of that reverse guitar, but it's real subtle. And then some harmonics. There's some swelled guitar. So basically, I'm throwing everything I can at this track, trying to see how far I can take it. And that includes a swelled guitar, clean guitar parts, harmonics, and so on. All different kinds of things. Okay, now these last 2 tracks, I had tuned the Yamaha back up to E, standard E, as I recall. And this one, I just call it... I think it's called Body Scan. You know, it's kind of a scan. Like in a science fiction movie, you know, where they're scanning something. And here, I had narrowed down some of the hot sauce algorithms that I had used previously on my pedal board. And when I first put them, I put it 3 different hot sauce algorithms. One with delay, one with a huge reverb, and one by itself, to see which of the 3 I would use most often. And then I cut off 2 of them, and that would leave me that one preferred preset that I could use all the time. So I believe this is what I used here. And here, yeah, it's a 9-minute track as well. It's track 6. Let's take a listen to it. Yeah, this was a fun track too. There's that pattern playing in the background, and it's kind of creating the bass type rhythm. And then here I've got that right there, those little notes, and that's actually a new hot sauce algorithm preset that I programmed and put in the pedal board. But it was very, very loud. So I couldn't use it very much, so I could only get a few notes out. And it worked out very well for this kind of track. Yeah. I don't know, for some reason it reminds me of The Hobbit or the Lord of the Rings movies for some reason. Alright. Yeah. So this was a lot of fun to experiment over. Very strange guitar sounds. Okay, let's fast forward that to the 5-minute mark. Okay, more strange sounds. And here I think I'm using that octave guitar sound but swelling it. Gives you a very strange kind of sound. And that's kind of what I was going for with this track, is just using some odd sounding guitar sounds, you know. Yeah. Let's face it, you know, hearing the same guitar sounds all the time is boring, right? So here's some real unusual ones. Like that one, it was that octave guitar where it plays a regular note and one octave up. However, I muted it, right, to give it that kind of a staccato sound, that tuck 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 type sound. Okay, let's fast forward to the 8-minute mark. There's some more standard pattern playing over it. And it really gives the track, it's kind of a strange mood atmosphere. To me, it kind of reminds me of as if you were walking through a forest or something like that. Encountering all kinds of strange plants and things. I don't know. So that's what comes to mind. That was a lot of fun, though, to use those kind of strange guitar sounds, you know. And sometimes some of those strange guitar sounds end up being some of my favorites. Speaking of strange guitar sound, here's another one. This is again the Yamaha guitar on the tuned to standard E. And here I think I'm using a hot sauce Eventide algorithm. You know, makes the guitar sound like a synthesizer, kind of. Let's hear that. Yeah. Right there. Kind of like that Mixolydian type sound right there. Again, is a kind of an experimental track, I guess. A little different, you know. But I just love the sound of it, the vibe it creates, you know, the mood of it, or the atmosphere of it, I guess. So there's some pattern playing, but on the top strings, you know, so it's real small and light. It's in contrast to the main theme. Okay, let's fast forward. This is a 7-minute and 40 track. It's the last track on the album, and we're at the 4-minute and 8-second mark. Let's hear that. So I've added a couple layers of different pattern playing on different strings there. Definitely a theme developing as the track moves on, you know. So let's move to the 5-minute 54-second mark. We're at the 6-minute mark, and there's really developing that theme. Definitely experimental track as well. Fits the album really well, though, I think. And that's the entire album right there. And it's actually only 7 tracks, but it's 58 minutes and 14 seconds long. So it's a decent sized album. I think the smallest track on there is the intro track, which is 4 minutes and 31 seconds. So they're all very long tracks. And that's to develop those themes, you know. And I really like the experimental ones at the end, where I used, instead of standard guitar sounds, you know, used some really kind of odd sounds, and then tried to take those as far as I could, you know, as far as developing a theme, a mood, and atmosphere. And the 7th track, the last track, is very much like that on there. So, while this album may not, you know, win me the Shredder of the Year award, you know, for super fast lead, you know, squealing guitar playing and so on. I think musically, for me, it's very much a step forward. And it's definitely exploring what was hinted at previous albums, you know, and seeing what direction it could go in musically. So I'm really, really pleased with the album very much. And, well, I can't wait to see what 315 will be like, because I definitely want to try out some new sounds that I've created that I haven't used yet at all, and I'd be very interested to see how that works out. Anyway, this is solid album for me. Very pleased with it, you know. And I'm very much free to experiment, you know, with different kinds of guitar sounds and things, and not the usual guitar sounds, you know, if that makes sense. You know, kind of not generic necessarily, but guitar sounds that you've heard over and over again, you know. So I tried to do something different, and I think it worked out very well. It gives that particular album, you know, that kind of sound to it. Now, hopefully the next album will be a different sounding than this one, of course. But yeah, this one I really tried to take some themes that were created with an odd guitar sound and then tried to take it as far as I could musically and see what kind of mood and atmosphere it creates. Definitely interesting results. So there you go. That's the making of Modern Rock Guitar Volume 314. And I believe it was called Altitude. You know, definitely has some interesting things on there, you know. And I know 2 of the tracks have that pattern playing extensively, and the rest are kind of experimental type tracks. And I very much like the very first track because it's so quiet in a way, but very strong as far as mood and atmosphere, you know. Definitely kind of a dark track in a way. Alright, so hopefully I'll see you next time. Alright, bye-bye.